Now, we have our DS almost down to the bare bones. We'll set this to the side. We'll put our screws there so we know what went where, of course. Now, we have our speakers, which I like a lot more than the DS Lite version because they don't have any wires to go to them. They simply connect with the small boards we just took off. You can see the contact points there and there. It's much nicer than the DS Lite in my opinion. In fact, I like the Phat just simply because the fact it's easier to work on. We want to take this cable, and once again we have a piece of adhesive here, which is not a good thing because it makes us be a little rougher with our cable than we like to be. And notice the flip here in the cable. Our top screen is a little more difficult to get out. First thing, we need to take this piece of plastic here out. It simply has a notch which goes right there where the cable goes. Then we actually have to, in a sense, pry this thing out because it's actually got sticky on it. So, there's our top screen. Almost sticky too here. And we'll lay it aside. And here's our DS. We have this cable here, which in order to remove it, we have a small screw right there, which is probably not going to focus on. But that's what we need to take out in order to remove this cable. Small Phillips head screw that we remove, and it releases a part of the hinge here, which I'll put the screw in there so we know what we've got, if it'll stay in there. And this is where I like the Phat a whole lot more than the Lite, because basically this cable just is fairly simple to work out. There with no hoodoo and no tricks, and no voodoo. Well, I said that and it wants to be rather difficult. What's new? We'll just keep fiddling with it. And you'll eventually work it through. There we are. Very important. I know you see a lot of people online being rough with these cables, and if you are, you're going to end up either buying a cable for a Phat or buying a touchscreen for a Lite. And then you have to solder your speakers, as I said before, and then you're not going to be very happy. Okay. Looks like it's fairly well stripped. Okay, so it's reassembly time. I have my replacement case here. As I said, I ordered it from Deal Extreme. Pretty good quality. Like I say, it's not really wide, but hey, for $6, can't fuss too much about it. So what we need to do is feed our cable up through here. So we need to take this screw out like we did before. There we have a screw and a little cover. And now, as you can see, we can actually see where our cable goes through. If we take it off. Without taking that off, it's going to be a real bear. Okay, I've installed my cable, which I've saved you the agony of watching, and now I have to install the cover for the cable, which holds it in place and really polishes the whole appearance of the DS. It kind of clips in, well, Not that well. But it clips in. Flip it over. And install this itty bitty little screw. Which I can't seem to get a hold of right now. And my screwdriver's not magnetic. But anyway. Okay, that's installed, even though for some reason in this case my screw did not tighten up like I wished it had. It's never a good sign. Alright, I'm going to lay this down and place our screen. Our spacer, just for spacing purposes here, so we know we're in the right location with our screen. I like to open it up here and just make sure everything looks cool, and it does. And now I've got a big fingerprint that I have to clean later before I install the front cover. Okay, so back to our Wi-Fi cable. Slips through here, comes up through the cable, slides through there like so, it goes right around there. Right now we're not really worried about its placement on that side. Okay, now we need to connect these. Let's just see here, if we put them on like so, I'm going to slide it around like so. First I'll start with the tiny one. And you have to make sure that these are seated fairly well. And they're rather fiddly. Okay, there's one. Actually, I probably better check that. Make sure it's seated all the way. Not a little too fast here. Yes, it feels like it's all the way seated. Really is where you run into the most trouble on these case replacements, is with these darn cables. They're not fun. Also not very nice. For some reason, yeah, it doesn't look like it's seated correctly. That's a little better. Okay. We're on this cable too. Make sure to seal it all the way and carefully clip. Okay, look pretty good there. Now we'll place our speaker for this side. Right there. Flip this over. Lay it in there where it should go. Now this case has some small lugs here and here that this sits on, and unfortunately they were a little bit off, so I had to do a little rig in there to get those to work. But then we take this cable, I want to pull it taut, but not so much to the point where I'm stretching the cable. I can see an area where the original was attached, so I'm going to try to reattach it in the same area. And then we'll shift our concentration to this side. We'll start our speaker. We'll once again. And that one set right in there. And then once you finally get this aggravating Wi-Fi wire into there, and both of these are on their posts, make sure it's actually touching the speaker, so we'll have some sound out of there. I want to tear it apart again. Then we can put our screws in, which just came with its own screws, which I will attempt to use. Sometimes they're not the best in the world. So we want these two tiny screws. And they go in the hole. It's nice and tight. And that's nice and tight. Then I believe that that's all we have to do on the side. Besides, of course, putting our new screen protector on, which I'll do as the last step. So then we just install our new backing. As you can see, all this is in here as it should be. Looks good. It's got the loop in it. That's nice. Plenty of room to play with here. So when we open our DS, it's nice and flexible, which is what we want. And everything looks good. Cables are securely attached. Nothing's really sticking up high. So what we'll do is we'll actually take this piece and we'll begin snapping it in. I'll start on the rear here. Work my way gently around. Like I say, you do not want to break these snaps or it'll be very obvious. That's going to be very obvious anyway. Look at there. Gap. And like I say, $6 case, you know.